So I think the key question that many of us ask ourselves when we're betting sports is, did I make a good bet? You could say, well, did it win? Yes. Okay, then you made a good bet. But we know that's not necessarily the full truth. There's always things that happen in games where good teams play bad, and bad teams can play good, and it doesn't necessarily mean we made a good or a bad bet. For example, if the team hadn't have had that fumble in the fourth quarter, if I hadn't got that lucky interception when they were driving to win, or even I bet the Golden State Warriors, they normally shoot 36 from the three. This game they shot 28%. I got unlucky, I lost the game. So we don't necessarily know off the results of the game if we made a good bet or not. But what if I were to tell you that there's a mathematically proven way for you to know that you made a good bet right before the game starts, and that if you pass the third grade, you can calculate this? Well, stick around and let's go through it. So for this, I wanted to use an example of a bet I made on this past NFL Sunday. And so the bet that I had made was the Dallas Cowboys on the money line versus the Cleveland Browns. So Dallas was an underdog at plus 122. Cleveland was the favorite at minus 142. So the first step that we need to do is calculate the implied probabilities of our bet. So how often should we win this particular bet? So this is actually very easy, and we can see how we can calculate it very simply. For underdogs, Dallas in this case, we would take 100 and divide it by the odds plus 100. And for Cleveland, because they're the favorite, we would take minus 142, so in this case 142, and divide it by 142 plus 100, and that gives us our implied probability. So in this case it's 45% for Dallas that they should win the game versus 58.7% for Cleveland that they should win the game. And the first thing that you could probably point out here is these probabilities add up to more than 100, and they do. And that's because of the presence of hold or vig in our prices. We're not given a fair price when we bet sports. There's a little bit of house advantage that's really baked into the numbers, but we can calculate that as well. So in order to calculate the hold or the house advantage in the total market, we need to calculate the over-round. This is done really simply by just adding those two probabilities together. Market adds up to 103.7%. So from there, we need to figure out what are the actual odds that we're going to win our bet. And this is another simple step where we just take our implied probabilities and divide it by the over-round, and that gives us our VIG-free probability. So VIG-free, Dallas should be winning this game 43.4% of the time, whereas Cleveland should be winning it 56.6% of the time. So from there, we can come to our last step, which is how do we calculate the house advantage for how much we should win or lose based on the numbers of how we made this bet. And we do this by using the hold formula. So this would be the VIG-free probability of winning, the actual probability of winning, multiplied by the odds offered, divided by 100 minus the probability of losing. So for Dallas, it's 43.4% times 122 divided by 100 minus 56.6%, and that gives us a hold of minus 3.6%. So that means that we're expected to lose $3.60 for every $100 we bet. Normally, it's a negative expected value thing, but things can happen that can change that formula very quickly. And in this case, it's line movement, where if you bet sports for a while, you know that the lines do not stay fixed. They move as people bet and as more information comes to the market. So let's take a look at how this game moved over the course of the week. So over the course of the week, things turned out in my favor. And the line on Dallas moved originally from 122 to 109. Cleveland closing at minus 122. So the line moved in my favor, but how much advantage did it actually give me? So the first step to solve this one is to actually calculate what the new VIG-free implied probabilities are. And in this case, we'd use the same formula. We calculate the same over-round. Now Dallas has 46.5% chance of winning the game, whereas Cleveland has a 53.5% of the game. So I moved 3% better. I'm now going to win the game more times by 3% or so. Our friends that had bet Dallas moved against them. They're more likely to lose their bet than they were to win the bet. So the last step we really have to do is we are going to substitute the new VIG-free probability into the old formula, and that'll give us our hold and how much expected value we should have. So here's that formula again with the new input. So my new VIG-free probability is 0.465, my loss probability is 53.5, and my odds remain at 122. So in this case, I do the formula and I come up with a positive hold of 3.3%. So that's great. So with the movement, I am long-term going to make $3.30 for every $100 I bet. So I now have expected value at the book. So this is called closing line movement. This is called closing line value. And this is the one way to know that you made a good bet. And when you're trying to get better at sports betting, when you're trying to learn, focus on this, focus on beating that line movement, and it'll help you to become better at sports betting. Thanks so much. Bye.